enabled homosexually. This is the ideological and practical crossroads that the gay liberation movement is at today. Either to renew its mandate and deepen its import by taking up seriously a gay-centered psychological method, or to creatively stagnate in the face of continued oppressive forces within and without that bitterly oppose homosexuality and the successful cultivation of better psychological consciousness overall. I say, let's become more homosexual, not less, by seeking enhanced initiatory relations with that force or presence in us instigative of good gay desire and romantic feeling to begin with, starting through honest, penetrating, and effortful psychological self-engagement, affirmingly undertaken as we relate to others and live in the same-sex loving community and the larger world. That is the purpose of cultivating a gay-centered psychology as the next stage of gay liberation theory and practice, and that is accordingly the reason for establishment of the Institute for Contemporary Uranian Psychoanalysis here in Los Angeles. The concept of Uranian psychoanalysis refers to a progressive marriage of homosexually-centered evaluation and psychoanalytic formulation that incorporates the already established literature about homophobic trauma on good homosexual personality growth, or gay affirmative psychology, into a prime conceptual extension to Jungian analytic thinking, a Uranian extension. This term refers to a well-known story in Plato's Symposium about same-sex love having a unique matron goddess, heavenly Aphrodite Urania, she who was born from her father's severed testicles, fallen into the sea. Thus, the phrase Uranian psychoanalysis refers to the study and appreciation of what is transpersonal and individuational about being distinctly homosexual in the Jungian sense, which is that of the profoundest reformational possibilities for psychological self-awakening as the golden shamanic road to fullest creative humanization. How much more apt can that far-sighted analytic sensibility be than as rightly applied to the comprehensive quest for complete gay liberation? Envision being a homosexual person in revealing terms of an inherent teleological intent, authoritatively rising, as Jung might say, from the archetypal self, the godly center and circumference of ultimate subjective existence in the ethical and spiritual sense. Picture gay desire as a personifying invitation by the psychological soul to a lifelong love affair with deity that can progress thematically through inner stages of transformational fathoming in concert with outer affectional intimacy to the satisfying point of the richest qualitative realizations. Imagine same-sex romance as transpersonally summoning a promotional spirit of twinship mutuality, which is at the very heart and essence of the dignifying human pursuit of equality, democracy, and individual justice in a peaceful, loving world. The greater treasures, the greater alchemical treasures of what C.G. Jung called the collective unconscious, are made more accessible gradationally through a depthful analytic approach, which rightly appreciates effortfully engaging one's shadow side, relationally, for the sake of that obtainable numinous enrichment, or rather, grappling with how one is presently, for the most part unwittingly, entangled in one's shadow side of past and present malevolently hurtful forces, most so within the realm of one's feeling for oneself, as the beginning of an intensifyingly purposeful creation of new psychological consciousness. a transmuting tincture and medium of accumulating potency and change that inevitably leads internally to increasingly integrated intimacy with subjectively manifesting sacrality. Such a preeminent world of self-confirmation and moral deepening is available to growth-oriented gay and lesbian people through good cultivation of an authentic and affirming psychological attitude, an ennobling direction, pragmatically in tune with that improved self-awareness involved in achieving a valued gay identity, and with what, from a depth perspective, can be homocentrically imagined to have inspirationally and directionally gotten us to become and be same-sex oriented originally, the primordial aboriginal spirit of centralizing homosexual desire, what we could call divine Uranian eros. The Greek love god eros was taken up by Jung as a metaphorical concept or symbolic representation of an inherent aspiration in the sexual urge toward reaching a greater wholeness, particularly internal wholeness, what Jung means by individuation or becoming a specific person. If we understand Uranian eros as psychically behind the rise of homosexual desire, orientation, identity, thus history and community, then its additional intentions for same-sex loving people are historically at the fecund point where more purposeful facilitation of gay self-becoming would prove most fruitfully useful. It must be the case that the overall effect of heterosexist oppression has been lessened significantly enough on homosexual being through all our dedicated struggles, such that we can now attempt to reach beyond previous homophobically sourced limitations of good self-becoming and qualitative validation by forthrightly entering a new stage of psychologically focused gay liberation thinking and parallel action that best supports, engages, and follows out the farther possibilities of intellectual Uranian eros in salutary subjective humanization and its additional self-interested politicization through cultivating homosexual psychological awareness towards satisfactional fulfillment of a second stage in gay identity formation, the constructive alchemical fashioning of more complete valuative self-realization in a preciously distilled sense of interiorly reformed gay personhood. To give you a better sense of what this greater homosexual destiny of estimable self-becoming might amount to subjectively, when pictured in a gay-centered psychological fashion, let me describe a possible comprehension of homosexual personality development from the perspective of relevant transpersonal themes as synthesized from gay liberation, psychoanalytic, and Jungian ideas. For the sake of greater specificity, I will focus on the psychology of gay men, although a parallel understanding would be equally available for lesbian women. Imagine that in the beginning of personal existence, a primordial essence, intrinsic to the basic life force, spontaneously emerges from the archetypal self or preconceived idea of incarnating subjective being, an essential procreative seed that we can characterize figuratively as the original source and guiding intelligence of elementally flowing libido. Dynamic libido is the expressive, energic agency of the individuation instinct, or primordial urge to become an individual, and rousingly animates the variously configuring symbols of substantiating transformation by which existence subjectivity factually occurs, and valued personhood fruitfully organizes and deepens. In most people who have developed a secure personal sense of biological gender identity, that they are male or female, which usually occurs by around 2 years of age, the further channeling of fundamental libido into genital sexuality and then adult romance subsequently turns, at least mainly, in an opposite gender-oriented amorous way. But in those persons who become immutably gay-identified, it turns systematically and vigorously in a same gender-aligning way. And so their basic venereal libido is consequently organized homosexually. This defining same-sex expression, in our imaginative formulation, arises from and is so directed by the verdant essence of all possible subjective existence, which numinous cause is thus rightly regarded as the autothonously enlivening essence of meaningfully demarcating gay eros, love, identity, language, and feeling life as most ethically worthy and spiritually good achievements in developing self-creative personhood's finest, wholesome maturation. The beneficial actualization of primordial vital essence, well gained psychologically through clarifyingly becoming successfully homosexual in amatory feeling and coherent thought, is revealed by this interpretive line of depthful analytic reasoning to be the premier formational route by which the cosmogonic archetypal self incorporationally individuates itself specifyingly in subjectively forming gay men. The nifty evolutionary route through which the archetypal self brings about this most importantly valued realization of same-sex loving actuality would then consist, analogous to productive heterosexual development, as fair logic and unbiased perception would sanely suggest, initially in constellation of a homosexual family romance during the Oedipal stage of psychosexual growth. I've called this gay familial distillation of crucial object relations the Uranian complex. A forming gay boy is impelled by the primordial essence to fall in love incestuously with his phallic father in order to maturationally fulfill the personality-building organization of his early genital striving through that meaningful patterning route. And in consequence, he is well entrancingly drawn to heroically seek satisfying possession, at least in fantasy, of his yearned-for father's phallic love for him, by imaginally taking his mother's married place relationally to father, in what would then compose a homosexual form of crucial symbolic return to the founding primal scene, the sourceful parental act by which personal being first came into tangible existence. You all know what I'm referencing here, isn't it disgusting? This same-sex incestuous metaphorical yearning to participatorily recreate one's own origin attitudinally leads to an ambivalent identification with the figurative mother, whereby the contrasexual animal archetype in the psyche is not further split off from the nation ego's accessible experience, as it would be in male heterosexual personality growth, even though that gay ego-to-be had previously securely attained a masculine gender identity, clarifyingly separating it from the feminine, but relationally becomes instead an inner incorporating body of joyously felt desire, valuationally deep emotion, and substantively actualized composition, as intelligibly, personally homosexual. The capable psychic vessel of the buoyant, thriving heart, nutritiously to be satisfied fulfillingly in natively good gay love, which is increasingly aligned with consonantly by the consciously emergent ego, and the archetypal image of the masculine, which I am most fundamentally picturing allegorically as a figurative phallic double of one's own literally perceived genitals, as that personified figure of the typic male sex, which had earlier provided the analogical basis for a gay man to congruently identify with his own biological gender, is now properly infused excitationally with the numinously ultimate mysterium of the transcendental relational soul, the soul as a Jungian concept, meaning the inner felt source of enlivening inspiration, particularly as most potently manifested in personified romantic form, what Jung means by his classic definition of a man's anima. Get it as an animation?